Dude,
Hey!
look who's back. Look at us doing the remote thing again, because you're in Traverse City and I'm in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Hang on, I got to get rid of our brand in the back.
I'm in Traverse City, Michigan at my in-laws' house, and I'm sitting in their den.
Yay.
Hi.
I know, look at it. It even looks like a den because it's got like a flannel background thing. They're like, it just screams den. The only thing you need is like a pipe and a thing of brandy. And then,
you know, there might be a pipe. Let me check here on the shelf. It just might be a pipe.
Oh my God. Look at us broadcasting on Wednesday. Do you seriously have a pipe? Shut up.
No, I don't. But I have this figurine here. This figurine.
Okay.
See this guy right here? See, there we go.
That's interesting. Yeah, that makes it look like
he should have a pipe. Like he could have a pipe. Like, hey,
well, it looks like he should absolutely have a pipe. He looks like he's like a little leprechaun who should be smoking a pipe.
I got to make sure I don't break that. Otherwise, that's what I get in the will. So.
Oh yeah, that's probably what you're getting anyway.
Yeah,
good job.
It's about it.
Here we are, Ann Brothers. It's December 29th, 2021, and it's that time of year that people reflect on their year in review and what was good about 2021 or what was bad. Or I think we might sum up 2021 as being a little bit less than people hoped for. A
number of my clients, I'm a massage therapist, were like, this year seems worse. And I said, well, last year, all we had was COVID. We didn't do anything. We didn't go anywhere. We just had COVID. This year we have everything is back and COVID.
And COVID.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of
it was interesting because, everybody's like, 2021 is going to be the best year ever because 2020 was terrible. And it wasn't, 2020 was not great, but then we started off 2021 with an insurrection. And that should have that just sort of set the table for the year. And I was like, and then we all fought over whether it was just a riot or this wasn't really an insurrection. It was just people that were just expressing their freedom. And then
white people expressing their freedom.
Yeah, that
black people, brown people expressing their freedom would have been
very different. The outcome would have been very different. Anyway, so and it's interesting because my husband Joe Peters wanted to know what we were doing for our show today. I'm like, well, we're doing a review, year in review, but we're focusing on the cool shit that happened in 2021. And he was like, thank you. Thanks for doing that. And I'm like, you might as well, because there was some good stuff that came out of 2021. And I think everybody could say that. There was a lot of crap, but there's also always good things. And as humans, we actually do better when we express some gratitude for those good things and try to focus on that, because otherwise you don't feel so good.
Yeah, you don't. And I have to admit, I was very self-centered about my good things. It was like stuff that I thought was good. So okay, good. Because I was like, hey, what was good for the world? I was like, I don't know, the world can take care of this is what I liked.
Yeah, and I don't think that's not necessarily realistic for people, Americans especially, to focus on other parts of the world. We're super good at focusing on us. I'm like, I'm gonna go with that. So
I know that's what I'm gonna go with. I love me.
Love me too.
Me.
Yeah.
What made me happy?
So that was and really what I did is I just went through and looked at all my pictures. I'm like, what are my pictures? Not that I do Instagram or anything like that, but I honestly, and I have a remarkable talent for just not remembering stuff that I don't want to remember. So that's pretty much how I do all of school. I just don't remember it.
I was like, I remember everything and I'm angry about it.
Yeah. And I think that's actually my defense mechanism for dealing with my sadness and anger, is that I'm like, nope. Shit, never happened.
No. What do you mean? I wasn't there.
I don't know. I'm like, oh yeah. And then I look at my pictures. I'm like, oh, that's right. I did the thing. Yeah, right on.
That's cool. Good for me.
Oh, rats! I forgot to put something in my in my favorite things, but I'll talk about it in a second. Okay. I actually might, put that in there. But anyways, we should look at that. We should look at our these are our few of our favorite things from the Brother Sisters in 2021. And yeah, I'm kicking myself because I forgot to put my podcast in, but I'll do that at the end.
I was going to say, you can talk about it because I put my and I remembered mine at the last minute too. I was like, oh, I have to put this in because I'm obsessed with it. So
Okay, yay. I don't know if I'm obsessed with my podcast. I'm not a very good podcaster because when I'm running around, I like to listen to my audiobooks. That's kind of it's like there's only so much of me to go around for my content, and I didn't do that much content this year. Mm-hmm. So, Anne, we're going to start with you with your stuff because you started first. So,
well, yeah. I love to read. Reading's my favorite. And so I thought I would start with books that I read this year. I mean, I had lots of, books, of course, but this is specifically this year. And I thought I'd start with my fiction. And I noticed that I picked out 4 that I really liked. I noticed that 3 of my 4 were super dark. So the first one I picked was A Startup Wife. And I picked this book because I heard an interview with the author, and it's funny. It's so funny. This woman ends up, her husband is like this guru of social, I don't want to give too much away, but of social networking, basically. And so she turns his ideas into this new social platform, and he becomes pretty much a deity, and she's his wife. But she's the one that creates this whole thing. So, oh my gosh, it's so funny. One of the funniest lines from the book that I remember is they're talking about, acrylic nails and how they've made they're big again. And when I was in the 90s, early 90s, they were big, and now they're back. And this one character says, acrylic nails are the foot binding of the 21st century.
Yeah, because you can't really do anything.
So hilarious.
When you have big ass acrylic nails, you can't.
I know. How do you wipe your butt with those nails? That's my question. So anyway. Hilarious book. It's not very long. It's like 250 pages. So easy to read. It's very funny. And then the other 3 are all quite dark. The Only Good Indian by Stephen Graham Jones is it's about Native Americans, murder, pissed off deities, and basketball. So it is, Jenny, you should read it because the man that wrote this book you can tell how much it's almost like religious for him. So it's a great book. It'll scare the hell out of you, and you'll be freaked out for a while. Okay. Madam is one of those books I love that's written recently, but it's set in the early 1990s before cell phones. So it gets this really creepy sense to it. And, there's nothing you can do because there's no cell phones. It takes place in Scotland at a girls' school, a very illustrious, famous girls' school. Oh my gosh. And then finally, Mexican Gothic, which is set in 1950s Mexico. And it has this kind of Wuthering Heights sort of idea to it's very creepy, in the way that only Mexican or Spanish creepiness, that kind of ghost, sort of, it's really, really good. She also wrote a great book called The God of Jade and Smoke, which is also very good. I almost put that on here too, but I decided just to go, I would read, I as soon as I put Mexican Gothic down, I wanted to pick it up and read it again. That was the same for all of these books. In fact, Madam, I finished it and picked it right up and read it again. That's how good it was. So cool. The Only Good Indian was so creepy. I needed some time to try not to let the ghost find me. Okay.
That sounds like that's the uplifting book of 2021.
Exactly. So if you want to laugh, The Startup Wife. If you want to be super creeped out, The Only Good Indian. And if you want to just be then the other 2. So
okay.
There you go. For my nonfiction, now the 4 books I talked about, all of those came out within the last year and a half. For my nonfiction, these are all a little bit on the older side. Midnight in Chernobyl, you've read that one. I could not put it down. It's so engaging. Page after page, you're like, I can't believe this happened. I can't believe this happened. I can't believe this. I can't believe they let this happen. I can't believe they let you that's your mantra through the whole book.
Dodged the bullet on that one. That could have been way
this
worse.
Is one I'm almost finished with this one right now. Again, another book I can't put down about Catherine the Great of Russia. Fascinating woman, totally fascinating. You wouldn't believe her story. I mean, it's like you can't believe it really happened. And then Heaven and Hell was really good. And this guy I know gets hate letters because it's a history of the afterlife and how we came up as a species with the afterlife. And then a lot of it's, basically the what I found really interesting is how we often think of the Bible as this static piece of writing, like it never changes. But as he goes through the Bible, you see how the whole idea of the afterlife changed within the Bible itself, and how it's going to continue to change as we as a civilization change. So really fascinating. Probably if you're like real into the dogma of Christianity, probably going to piss you off. But it's very, very, very thought-provoking. So those are my books that I found, that was obsessed. I was obsessed with them. I was also obsessed with this book about Joan of Arc. I'm kind of obsessed with her right now too. So there you go.
So I'm seeing some obsessions that you've got some time for, Anne. Yay.
Yeah. I like to obsess about things, so it's perfect.
Oh, that's good. I also, like you said, Midnight in Chernobyl. I did read that one this year as well. I didn't actually put it on my list because it's on your list, but it's a fascinating look at the inner workings of the USSR back in the day. It really is just. I was just kind of awestruck by that book, and it made me sick to my stomach a lot. In fact, I had to stop reading it for a while because I really was just like, this makes me hurt, and then I would come back to it, and then I would go away from it because it would just, God, human beings, what?
We're the worst.
Yeah,
how we haven't pulled ourselves off yet amazes.
I know, we should have. This should have been it. This should have been literally like, we got so lucky. Yeah.
Stupid lucky. Just honestly stupid lucky. So
yeah.
And then these are my best movies I saw this year. And these are all fairly recent for me. I've seen most of these within the last like 3 months. So my first one was Nightmare Alley by the director Guillermo del Toro. He is one of my favorite directors. In fact, his movie Pan's Labyrinth is my second most favorite movie. So this one is very film noir. It's gorgeous. It's so gorgeous. You just want to eat it with a spoon. It's so beautiful. It's creepy. He's also he directed one of my favorite guilty pleasures, Pacific Rim, which is like second of my favorite guilty pleasures. So as soon as I heard that he was doing another movie, I ran out and saw it. I can't wait to see it again. We saw it on a big screen. We saw it at the State Theater in Ann Arbor. I was so glad because it's like 2.5 hours, and it's just you just drink it all, and it's so beautiful and so creepy, and I loved it. Don't Look Up. I just saw this one a couple days ago. So funny, so dark, so dark. Again,
we're gonna make you guys wait for the review on that one before we talk too much about it.
Exactly. If you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix right now. I highly recommend it. The other one was also a Netflix movie, and this is The Power of the Dog, directed by Jane Campion.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, Jenny, this is an amazing story. It takes place in Montana, Idaho, someplace. Anyway, it's really
well, Jane Campion is the woman who directed The Piano, so she's got chops. Okay.
Yeah, no, so she's got chops, and it's got that same sort of haunting ability to it. The characters are just so wonderful. The young man, actually, I have his name here. Let's see, Power of the Dog. Cody Smith McKee. He plays the young man. Oh man, he is amazing in this. This movie is heartbreaking, and it breaks your heart and makes you angry at the same time. And then it just makes you marvel at this young man. So it is so worth the time. And
you said that was on Netflix?
It's on Netflix right now. It came right out to Netflix, so it's great. Cool. And then my fourth one is The French Dispatch, which is Wes Anderson. Again, I really love his movies, so I always try to see them in the theater because they're just every single thing means something. And my favorite one of his is still Rushmore. That's still my favorite. But every time he directs a movie, it becomes more Wes Anderson in the movie. And this is delightful and beautiful, and it makes you want to eat good food, and it just makes you want to read The New Yorker.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So just a lot of fun.
Nice.
So my podcast, now this is my first foray into podcasts. And the reason why I picked this one is I heard an interview with Sarah Marshall on one of the NPR shows on the media. And she was talking about Tanya Harding or Monica Lewinsky. I can't remember, but basically the shaming of women in the 90s, how all these great big news events, and often centered around a woman who had no power in it, but somehow got blamed for everything. And so she and Michael Hobbs have been doing this for a number of years now. And what they do is they take some event that happened in the past and then they dissect it. And it's not like they're finding new information. It's information that's always been out there, but nobody's bothered to put it together. So like I said, they've done stuff on Tanya Harding, the Satanic Panic, just everything you could possibly think of, usually from the 90s. You're like, oh yeah, I kind of remember that. And they have this whole thing on O.J. Simpson, which I was not going to listen to, but they talk specifically about the minor characters of the O.J. Simpson, like his girlfriend at the time. They go to like 3 different programs on Nicole Brown Simpson, which was heartbreaking. Just gives you, whole different perspective. And you're like, oh yeah. They had one on sex offender registration, which I was like, yeah, all sex offenders should definitely register. And their argument about it was that it doesn't work. It doesn't keep children safe. The only thing we're doing is we're torturing these people who already been out of prison. Like, just leave them in prison. Why do all this? In Miami, get this. In Miami, if you are convicted on a sex offender registry, you can't live anywhere in Miami except the airport or the Everglades. They made it impossible for you to live. And I'm like, okay, that's fine if it helped keep children safe, but there's no proof that these laws help keep children safe. So it makes you really, really think. And, sometimes you're like, they're totally wrong. And then you're like, all right, maybe they're not wrong. So it's a great show. Mm-hmm.
Right on. All right. So that's your good podcast. All right. So cool things that you did, Ann Brothers, in 2021.
Okay, so one of the cool things I did, and I actually did this twice. I did it once with you, and then I did it once with Duncan. So in June, Jenny and I went to the Cleve Carney Museum at the College of DuPage in Glen Ellen, Illinois, and we saw the Frida Kahlo exhibit. It was pieces of her work, and then also a timeline history of her. And then it was so awesome that I went a second time, because it's really hard to see Frida Kahlo's work outside of Mexico. Mexico considers it national treasure, and they let it out very sparingly. So I felt really lucky to be able to go and see this. It was most of the work I had not seen before. And so I did that twice. So that was fun. Jenny and I did a weekend in Chicago with that. And then Duncan and I did a day trip with it. So that was super cool.
Totally. It was toy is what it was.
It was toy. And then another thing that I did was there's this organization in Detroit. They run 2 different branches of it, Detroit History Tours and the Detroit History Club. And I put their pages up there, their web addresses up there. And they do tours of Detroit, and there's tons of different ones, but the ones that Jenny and I did, and our husbands, we did the Spooky Detroit, Spirited Detroit. That's what it was. It was a bus tour, and that was super fun. And then Duncan and I also did their Beano, which is a bingo game, a history bingo game. And Jenny and Joe and I and Duncan are going to go do that again in February. And then in September, we did a Starlight tour on the Detroit River in a 3-masted ship. So sometimes it's through the tour group, which anybody can do, or sometimes it's through their club, and you actually have to have a membership in the club, but it's only $5 a year, and they're just a little bit more intimate. The bingo was that. It was, and you get to go into cooler places that you might not be able to go into. They might not just want anybody, and you have to show up.
Not the riffraff.
Yeah, exactly. So if you are in the Detroit area or live in the metro area, or want to learn more about Detroit and just do some really cool stuff with other cool people who are interested in this, it's wonderful. And they're the person who's the director of their organization is so knowledgeable, and she gets I've had her as a tour guide several times, but I've also had other people that have been tour guides for other events I did pre-COVID, and they're all super knowledgeable, fun people, and it's a great thing to do. Really, my friend Amy Terry invited me the very first time to do something, and she's my younger friend who makes me stay up past my bedtime. So she introduced us to this, and they're great people. So Duncan and I are both members. Jenny and Joe are both members. And you get that card. You see the card with the beaver on it. That's what your card looks like, to show that you're a card-carrying member. It's a lot of fun. Great way to explore Detroit.
Yeah. And Detroit's neat. That's what I learned this year. Detroit's neat.
Detroit's neat.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
I learned to paddleboard this year. Jenny can attest to the fact I'm not big into water. I like water next to me. I don't necessarily want to be in the water. I'm kind of like a cat. Don't want my face wet. But my cousin Joe Vieta and his wife Della Vieta brought their paddle boards from Colorado, which is funny. Colorado's not a great paddleboarding place, surprisingly. But it turns out Michigan is. And they're like, we're going to go paddleboarding. So I'm like, great, I'll bring my book because I wasn't going to go paddleboarding. They rented us some paddle boards. This is not a picture of me. I look like a turtle standing up on its hind legs on a paddle board, but it was a lot of fun. And in fact, Duncan and I went and did it again, and I'm probably going to purchase paddle boards for us this spring. So it was really cool.
Fun.
It was. We went kayaking earlier in the year, which was okay. And then we went paddleboarding a few weeks later, and I was like, oh, I like this so much better. So
it requires more of you.
Mm-hmm, it does. And it's just really, you can go cool spots in the water. I really, really liked it, and I wouldn't have done it. So Joe and Della, thank you. My cousin Joe was like, I want you to be happy while you're doing this. And I'm like, I can be happy or I can get on this board. I cannot do both. Turns out I could.
Look at cousin Joe, stretching your boundaries, bringing your comfort zone out.
Yes.
That's hilarious.
So, yes. Also, this year, 2021, was the year of the 17-year cicada. We did not have a lot of these in Michigan, but the Botanical Garden, Mathi Botanical Garden in Ann Arbor, had a great big influx of them. So Duncan and I spent an afternoon there checking out all the cool bugs with their big red eyes. I was so excited to do that. And I was afraid I would miss out on. I'm like, oh man, they're going to make me drive to Kentucky or something so I can see them. But nope. We had our little own infant station here, and it was so cool, and I loved it.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Right.
And then
you did cool.
In September, Duncan and I took a trip to Copper Harbor, Michigan, up in the Keweenaw Peninsula, which you can see up there. I have a little map of it. And we stayed at the Fresh Coast cabins. Now, Duncan and I have been up to the Copper Harbor area twice. Both times so we could go to the island, so we could go to Isle Royale. And we always talked about going back there and just exploring the area because you have to take a ferry. Well, there's 3 different ferries, but that's one of the places where you can take a ferry. So most people just spend the night there. So we decided to spend 4 or 5 days and just get to really know the area. And it was beautiful. And one of my favorite things to do was this little teeny breakfast stand, basically, right on Copper Harbor. So you would sit there on your picnic table with your paper plate, eating your thimbleberry donut with I'm not exaggerating, a multi-million-dollar view of the harbor into Lake Superior. It was fantastic. It's a beautiful place to go. Yeah, no, it's a beautiful place. Tons of hiking opportunities. Lots. If you want to be in the lake, you can be in the lake. You know, you can kayak, you can canoe, you can paddleboard, you can take a ferry to the Isle Royale. You can. There was a beautiful white pine sanctuary. I was like, oh, now I know what a white pine looks like. Every time I saw it, oh, white pine, oh, white pine, oh, white pine. See, so learn lots of crap. It's beautiful, just beautiful, and I'm glad we got to do it.
That's completely awesome.
Mm-hmm. So that's me. So that's those are cool things I did.
I know. I'm impressed by all of these cool things that you did. So I took more of a fact, and I'm going to give me 1 second. I'm going to jump out of that, and because I added something to it, and I'm going to jump back into it. Look at me doing stuff. Yeah. Okay. So I went chronologically. I looked at my year. I'm like, what did I do? Well, it turns out. So Joe and I, because we didn't try, and it occurred to me that one of the cool things about 2021 is that I got to get out of the house again because, we basically, the last time we were in Michigan before COVID was Christmas of 2019. And then spent the entirety of 2020 in Dresser, Wisconsin and Forest Lake, Minnesota. That was pretty much the extent of my travel. Yeah. So, here we were, we spent Christmas, so we spent Thanksgiving in Dresser, Wisconsin, and we spent Christmas in Dresser, Wisconsin, and we spent New Year's in Dresser, Wisconsin. And by this time, Joe and I were, pretty used to looking at each other. And, so one of the things that we decided to do for New Year's last year was to revive the days of yore of Avis Brothers, and we had fondue. So we researched fondue and we made some crock pot fondue with various cheeses and one with chocolates. And we started the year by just literally eating way too much fondue, which is pretty the story of my 2021, which was essentially my worship of the calorie. So I bowed down to the god of calories all through 2021, as you can see by my newly fat face. So yeah, we started out with way too much fondue. I'm like, we were eating fondue for the next 2 weeks. That's pretty much all we ate. I developed an unhealthy obsession with tiny hedgehogs doing stuff. So here we have the hedgehog camping, their camp setup, making dinner, picnicking, kayaking, tenting, and gathering firewood. Because why wouldn't you become minorly obsessed with tiny hedgehogs? So, oh, look, we got Monica with us. Hi, Monica. Yes, I would agree you could never have too much fondue. But you know what? I might have come close to having too much fondue.
Not chocolate fondue.
No, literally ate my body weight in fondue. And the cheese fondue we found was actually very good. It was multi-cheese, quite delicious. Who knew? Yeah. I got vaccinated, yo. That was probably the best part, was that when they finally, because, here I am still at the time, still living and working, living in Wisconsin, working in Minnesota. And when Minnesota got the vaccine, they basically, you know what? That's a great question, Monica. I don't know why the hedgehog is not making fondue. Apparently, he doesn't have the tools yet. So,
or the fingers. Maybe he doesn't have thumbs.
Or the thumbs. Good point. So yeah, I got vaccinated, which was so. I have this little team of women that we were all looking out for each other when vaccination times were coming up. Because in Minnesota, they basically did these massive vaccinations where you'd go down to the Excel Center in downtown St. Paul. And, you had to sign up for like a lottery, essentially, of, get yourself, go through this big, massive lottery thing to get yourself signed up. But got vaccinated, which is good, because then once I got vaccinated, it was time to travel. So for the first time, I think it was in April of 2021, I finally got to leave Dresser and see my peoples again, which was super fun. So, we did all kinds of stuff. Like, so we went to Chicago, we went to Milwaukee. This is a picture of an old fashioned from Toby's Supper Club in Madison, Wisconsin, because I hadn't been there in forever. And it was so funny because when Joe and I drove out to Michigan for Christmas of 2019, we stopped at Toby's and had dinner and stayed the night in Madison because we left right after I got done with work. And so it was nice to go back there and sit down and have one of their delicious old fashions, because they make a really good one. So that was one of the things that, for me, it was just nice to be able to get back on the road, because I love to travel. Oh yeah, opposable thumbs, Monica, good. Need to make fondue. Because I'm just reading Monica's, sorry, I'm doing two things at once, which is never useful. Just reading Monica's comment about having opposable thumbs to make fondue is important, and hedgehogs do not have those, which is a bummer. So yeah, that was one of the things I was just really grateful for again in 2021, was to just hit the road, go and do stuff, go back to Chicago, go to Milwaukee, take a ferry across the lake, all the crap that I love to do, just about more than anything. We had some big events that took place in 2021. For instance, Sarah got married. That's my stepdaughter, Sarah. She got married at the first/second week of June to her little husband there, Devin. Isn't that just the cutest picture of those kids? I swear.
Just those crazy kids.
Those crazy kids. Seriously, just a great time. I mean, it was just, we got to go to Greeley, Colorado, which is an up and coming city. Don't underestimate the power of Greeley. We got to hang with family. We got to see this really fantastic, beautiful wedding that we got to be a part of. I wore a skirt, as you can see. That is my official wedding outfit on the left. So Joe and I are a handsome couple in this picture. So you certainly are. So it's like I said, it was the weather was fantastic, and it was just a really great, because the weather earlier in the week, it was like 1,000 degrees. So on wedding day, it was reasonable. It was only about 80 degrees. It was just freaking awesome. And then we did other fun wedding things. We were out there in Colorado, and Joe and I ended up driving back to Wisconsin together. So we saw some cool stuff in Greeley. Look, there's my little heron right there.
Your little night heron.
I know, isn't that cool? There's there's like one park. Well, there's many parks in Greeley, but there's one park that has water in it, which is kind of a rare thing in eastern Colorado. And there was just a bunch of really great waterfowl there, including this little guy right here. So I got a picture of him. And then after the wedding, the wedding was on a Friday night. And I'll tell you what, Greeley, Colorado on a Friday night is hopping. There's a lot of fracking that takes place just outside of Greeley. So there's a lot of roughnecks in town. It was party central. So we went out and found a couple of spots. Joe and I and Joe's brothers and nephews and sisters-in-law. And it was just really a great time. Ended up having some breakfast with the Vietas, my aunt and uncle. We stopped at the Chances Are in York, Nebraska, and had a fantastic steak dinner. The Chances Are is literally my favorite steakhouse in America. It's delicious. It's awesome. Thank you, Monica. I will pass that along to the newlyweds. And the fact that I got to go there and have a steak again, it never disappoints, ever.
I always get chicken when I'm there. They have a pan-fried chicken. Oh, it makes me misty thinking about it.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, like 25 years ago, we stumbled across a steakhouse in York, Nebraska called the Chances Are. York, Nebraska is a tiny, tiny little town in York County, right along I-80. I don't know, maybe an hour and a half west of Lincoln, Nebraska, that has this cute little restaurant right in the middle of town. Great place. Fantastic. And these people just know how to make a steak. They just know how to make steak. Yeah. Joan Kelly Wilson is with us. She said, how fun, beautiful wedding, great pictures. Thank you, Joan. Right on. So yeah, that was just a really great way to spend the month of June. I went to biology school. I went to a 3-week course in modeling of biology, modeling concepts in biology, which was it was good, but it was also a lot of work. But I'm glad I went because I learned stuff about biology. So, which is good because I'm teaching it now.
And you got to hang out with me sometimes.
I got to hang out with you sometimes. And then while doing that, I also bought a house in Kalamazoo, Michigan. There it is. So that was how I spent my summer. I've never bought a house before. This was my, I had a condo that I had in Denver, but this is the first actual house that I bought. You know what? It's a lot of work to buy a house, straight up. And buying a house this year was especially difficult because the housing market was bananas.
Yeah, but, Jenny bought this house sight unseen. She sent me to look at the house and said, should we buy this house? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, you should. Yeah. So I sent my crack scouting team of my realtor and my sister to this house and was like, what do you think? So and they were like,
this is the nicest house that any of my relatives own whose last name doesn't end with Vieta.
You know, right? Yeah, we just got really lucky. It was one of those things where a lot of people bid on this house, as did we. I wrote a nice letter, heartfelt letter, and that's the truth. And managed to land this little baby. So yeah, that's how I spent basically half of June and most of July. And then after buying this house, we got to move there. And I got to tell you, moving when you're, it's one thing to move like when you're 18 and you're moving into your college dorm. That's really not a problem. And then when you get into your 20s, moving, no big deal. 30s, no big deal. But when you start moving in your 50s, whoa. Don't do it. Yeah, I'm not.
Unless you can hire somebody to do it all for you. You just walk into your new house and it's all ready.
Oh, great. So there's a couple of things on this picture I'd like to point out. A, this is the route to take to move from Dresser, Wisconsin to Kalamazoo, Michigan. We did the U-Haul thing because why wouldn't we? And then at the bottom, I have a picture of a very angry cat, which was what happened to my husband, who was mauled by a very angry cat, namely our cat Marla, because he didn't take my advice on how to manage getting Marla into the cat carrier. He tried to manhandle her, and she won. And let's just say Joe's drive from Dresser, Wisconsin to Kalamazoo, Michigan ended up at the urgent care for cat care. Because
cats have the worst venom.
Yeah, they do. Cat venom is not awesome. So anyway, Marla was fine. Joe, not so much. His finger is finally works again, pretty much. So yeah. So my advice to you, if you're moving with a cat, you gotta have some strategies and then use those strategies. Okay. Sweet. All right. So once I got to Michigan and started the new job, I'm not going to talk about my new job. I'm not going to put that down as one of my awesome favorite things of 2021. I am grateful to have the compensation that goes with my job, though I do not enjoy my job. But anyway, I did get to nerd out in Detroit a couple of times with my sister. So the first picture is the Renaissance Center from the river because we got to take a cool nighttime boat tour up the Detroit River, up to Belle Isle and back down, which was awesome. And then that second set of pictures there is us nerding out for the Spirited Haunted Ghost Tour. The building you're looking at there is the funeral home where Houdini was interred because he died in Detroit. Fun fact, Houdini died in Detroit, and his coffin is still hidden somewhere in Detroit. I know, which I love. So that was super fun. So yeah, going to continue to nerd out in Detroit in the coming months for sure. So when I wasn't doing all that stuff, some things that I enjoyed from this year, 3 books that I really liked. Well, I should say I really liked the first 2. The second one, or the third one, was okay, but it was a pretty good read. So The Ends of the World, which is a nonfiction book about the 7 mass extinction events that have taken place on Earth over the past 500 million years, which is a super nerdy paleontological book, but it's really awesome. Max Brooks's Devolution, which is a fictional story, but written kind of like a retrospective, or it's really smart book about a group of an eco village that's attacked by a group of Sasquatch. Awesome. And then finally, The End of October, which is a apocalyptic pandemic story. It was all right.
Yeah.
So
I agree with you there. I think if it hadn't come out during COVID, it would have gotten lost. And he did a pretty good job of the story of the virus. I thought was interesting. I thought everything else was. I thought his characters were.
You know what? God, I know, right?
I was like, oh my gosh, really? But I thought his. I wish he'd spent more time actually on the story of the virus, because that was the most interesting part of the book.
Yeah, I thought so too. Hi, Lisa Sammer. What's up, girl? Hello.
Hey, Lisa.
Lisa, you missed it. I had a picture of you in here. Look, I'm going to go back so you can see it. Look, there is. There you are. Because you were one of the cool things. I got to hang out with you this summer, which was one of the things that I'm super excited about, super grateful for. So, just wanted to throw a little shout out to you that you made the cut. You made the cut for 2021. As far as some TV, I didn't get a lot of a chance. This summer especially was so freaking just packed with stuff that I didn't get to consume a lot of, I would say, new media. This was a fairly stressful year, so sometimes when I get super stressed, I tend to go back to things that I love and that make me feel good. So I did a lot of repeating stuff this year. A lot of the stuff I watched this year was stuff that I've already watched because it makes me feel not quite so freaked out by everything. So, but the couple of new shows that I really liked, loved the show Girls 5 Eva. It's on the Peacock Network. It's Tina Fey and company, and I can't think of the Meredith Scardino, who was also did a lot of work with the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. So, but that show, just the music in it. Well, it's a show about a girls group from the late 90s, early 2000s that is trying to make a comeback 20 years later. And it's just so, and if you're a woman, especially, it really hits hard. Just some of the things that it deals with many things. It deals with fame. It deals with being a woman who's moving into middle age. It deals with sisterhood. It's really, and again, incredibly talented cast, and the music in it is the greatest. Yes, the invisible piano. And you'll find yourself singing the theme song to yourself all the time. And the best part is at the end when they play the full songs that are in the each episode. It's just, they're so funny and so well written. Sex Education, which you knew about this show but really didn't start watching it till this year. Maybe the best show, one of the best shows I've ever seen on television. If you were a kid, if you have kids, if you're a teacher, if you're an adult, you should watch that show because it really it takes you through that teen experience, which can be pretty devastating. And really, really just gut-bustingly funny. If you're a prude, don't watch Sex Education because they cover it all. And it's right. It's an English comedy, so the English don't hold back when it comes to sexuality. They just dive right in. So if that makes you squeamish at all, if you don't want your kids seeing that, don't watch it. But if you want to just be real about it, because that's one of the things that we don't do very well in this country when it comes to sexuality or sex education, is we don't make it real. We cover it up. We say it's immoral. We throw religion on top of it when it's something that we should absolutely be talking about openly. Because I think it would be it would make things very different for our young people for sure. And then finally, the one I really dug into, even though this is something that did not come out in 2021, it came out, I want to say in 2019, but really dug into it and started watching it, was Watchmen, which is one of those shows where it can be really confusing because you don't necessarily know what's going on, but watch it from start to finish because when it's all said and done, you'll know exactly what it's about. And it hits hard.
I think I watched the first 9 shows and did not know what was going on for the first 9 shows. Usually I would have given up way before that, but I thought about it all week and it was so compelling. I kept coming back to it, even though I didn't know what the hell was going on. So
yeah, and that's just it. It is incredibly compelling. The story is so well written and just so riveting that you just can't stop watching it. So you can't put it down, so to speak. So that was the TV I liked. As far as movies, there wasn't, and again, part of it is that I've never really enjoyed going to the movies, especially in the last, say, 15 years. They're gross. They're bed buggy, they're bacterial infected, they're COVID infested, and they're just gross. And people are just assholes at movie theaters. So I don't enjoy going to movies. So really, unless it shows up on Netflix or pay-per-view or something at home, I usually just don't. I can't remember the last time I was in a movie theater. But Nobody was my favorite movie this year. It's an action movie and it just sneaks up on you. You're like, what is this movie? Word of mouth kind of spread it that I should see this. And it was one of those things where you could, pay the $20 and watch it on demand. And so, it's still cheaper than going to the movies. So Joe and I watched it and just freaking loved it.
So did we.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other is Don't Look Up, which again just came out last week on Netflix. It's been out in theaters for a couple of weeks. And this is when, like I said, we're going to review it later this week or next week. So I'm not going to talk much about it. All I can say about this movie is I think you'll either love it or you're going to hate it, because this is one of those movies that the message is clear, and this is a sledgehammer message in this. There's no subtlety in this message. So that's either going to piss you off or you're going to be like, yeah, that's awesome. And
you'll laugh the whole time and cry.
It really is funny. And like I said, there are some really great performances in it, but that's all I want to say. Cause like I said, we're going to review it. And then finally a podcast that I liked, and my friend Amber French got me started on this. It's called My Dad Wrote a Porno. And so we're still working. Joe and I are about halfway through it, but it's the concept is very simple. The guy in the middle of the picture, his dad is a retired salesman from England. This is, again, these nice people are English, retired English salesman who decided that he was going to write erotic fiction for whatever reason. And so this dude decided, and he decided that he was going to take his dad's book
self-published
his dad's self-published erotic fiction and read it as a podcast. So each episode is a chapter of the book. And then as he reads it, his two friends, which are flanking him there in the picture, are basically giving commentary as he is reading it. And the book is atrocious. It's atrocious. It's offensive. It's awful. It's garbage. But the fun in this is listening to these two people comment on him as he's reading it. And they are so funny. And then they're constantly reminding this young man that his dad wrote this, Yeah.
This is nonfiction, people. His dad really did write not a book, but like 6.
It's a series. So this series of books that follows this character named Belinda is the word. In fact, it's so funny because Joe and I, we were listening to it in the car a couple of weeks ago. He's like, the writing in it is so tremendously terrible that there's nothing about it that's even remotely erotic. It is just bad. And like I said, the two people commenting on it are the things that make it worth listening to. And it really is just funny. And it, brings up the conversation. I'm like, well, what would you do if this was your parents? I'm like, what kind of baggage is this going to bring to the front for you? I'm like, is this the way my dad always felt about those things? Or
how long has he been writing these books in his head?
And like, and so it's like, there are many podcasts. And so, there is just this incredible sea of podcasts out there. And that's one of the reasons I haven't really focused too much on them, because I don't know where to start. And like many of them are heavy or they can be funny. And I just really liked this one because it is lighthearted and funny. Yeah, it's misogynistic and terrible for sure. But the fact that you have these two people that are calling it as they see it while he's reading is like they're calling out the terribleness of this, or what's happening, or why isn't this happening? Well, why would he choose this, or why is it being written in this way? And I love that. I think it's really worthwhile. And it does make you think for sure. So anyway, that's it. That's the things that I enjoyed this year. So 2021, you guys, was not a great year. But there were little sprinkles of things that were really neat and interesting. And, you know, I can't speak for other people in their lives or what's happened in your lives, but, you know, I guess Joe and I were kind of talking about this the other night as far as, you know, it's just you know, we attack these new year as if it's something different. And, you know, time is a very human construct. So this idea that just because we flip to a new month or a new week or a new year, that things are going to be so much better. And like, it really is the experience is what you make it, you know. Things are going to happen in your life. Things are going to happen. Some things that you have control over, but most of them you don't. And so, you know, what do? You know, you just go, you just do the best you can and try to find things along the way that are enjoyable and try to, you know, find people along the way that are enjoyable and fun and you can, you know, enjoy and build those relationships with. I think that's probably, to me, one of the most important things. So yeah.
What else do you do?
Nothing.
Crazy.
Nothing.
Find out your parents wrote porn or they're swingers or something. God help me.
Yeah.
Funny.
I know Monica. So Monica just commented about the look on the dude's face. I'm like, yeah, that's the look I would have on my face if I found out that my dad was writing pornographic, erotic fiction.
Exactly.
Yeah,
or my mom, you know, like.
Especially when you read some of the things that this man has written, you're like, my dad wrote that. My dad wrote that.
Does my dad think this is hot?
Ooh. No. Yeah. Hey, what are we talking about? So we're back on Sunday. So that's one of the, I wouldn't say that the brothers sisters make New Year's resolutions. I would say we make goals. Yes. What are we talking about? So the goal for 2020, let's put our goals out there, Ann Brothers, shall we?
Yes, so let's do that.
The brothers sisters are looking to expand in 2022. Oh, I know, Monica. Monica says she's happy to know absolutely nothing about my parents' sex life. I'm like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I know a couple things, and it isn't fun.
No, I don't think I know anything. I'm going to keep it that way.
Yeah, I can tell you. If you want
brothers. Don't, no. Can I hear you? There's a reason I forget things, Dan, because I don't want to know. Okay.
I know.
All right. So yeah, our goal is to have 1,000 followers on the Facebook and like 1,000 subscribers on what is it?
YouTube?
The YouTube. But you know what, Ann, I think we don't really offer anything to people that would subscribe to us on YouTube because usually people that get subscribers are like selling something or doing something or something.
We're being amazing. Isn't that enough that you get to see us being amazing?
I think so. T-shirts.
Oh, we'll think about it. You know what?
T-shirts. Yeah.
We'll think about it.
Okay, good. Anyway, that's our goal. So we're going to try to come at you a couple times a month. What are we doing this weekend?
Sunday. I thought we were going to rediscuss the whole resolution thing.
That's right, because it's going to be January 2nd. We're going to, even though I don't necessarily do the resolution thing, I think goal planning is better than resolving because, you know.
I have 2 goals this year that I definitely, actually 3 goals. So maybe I'll talk about those.
Okay, I'm going to talk about mine as well. So, but anyway, our goal as the Brother Sisters is to have some more followers and some subscribers and stuff because I think that would be really cool. But
we should probably learn more about that so we can get people to do it once we know what it really is.
Well, it occurred to me the other day, Ann, that if you're going to set goals, you have to have a plan to how to reach those goals. So I guess that's something we should talk about.
Yeah, we should talk about plan. Oh, I love to plan. I love to make plans. I love planning.
I'm really good at planning because, you know, I'm a teacher because that's what we do. That's all we do is fucking plan.
Plan. We plan for this. We plan for that. We plan for the next thing. And then we usually end up having to scrap half the plan because, you know, because children.
Because children and adults.
Or the internet goes down.
And the internet. Yeah, I know, which is really hard when you're basically running a virtual classroom, even though you have all of your students in front of you, but many of them miss like 10 days at a time. So then you have to run a virtual classroom because otherwise, yeah. 2021. Yeah.
2022.
Teacher in 2021. This girl doesn't love it. So wait, I wasn't going to talk about that. All right. So I'm still not. All right. Anyway, we've been at you now for almost an hour. So we are going to call it quits. We will see you guys on Sunday where we will be talking about the resolutions for 2022. Actually, not resolutions,
Goals.
Because resolution doesn't imply anything. Goals implies planning.
Right.
Exactly.
Goals. So like us, share us.
Wait, hang on. I have to put the background back on. Hang on. I gotta do that thing. I gotta put the brand back behind us. All right, hang on. Brand. There it is. That's not the one I wanted. That's the one I wanted. And then I have to get rid of our faces because we have to wait. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Nope, that's not what I wanted.
Now we're bigger.
Anyway, so like us on the Facebook, subscribe to us and like us on the YouTube. Tell your friends, tell your acquaintances, tell your other Facebook acquaintances, because let's face it, you're probably not really friends with many of your friends on Facebook. So tell your Facebook people, wait, there's more comments. Wait, did I get to those? Yeah, like and subscribe. Yes.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Lisa.
We need to I'm going to put a Post-it note next to my screen that says, like us, share us, something else about us.
Subscribe. You think you can do this for over a year now. You think we'd be better?
I know. Like 14-year-olds got it down, and I can't even what do you want me to do?
It's funny because I've been trying to read that book, like 1 million followers, but honestly, it's really bad, and it's like one big commercial, and B, it's totally irrelevant now. It was written like 3 years ago. I'm like, irrelevant.
Exactly. I'm like, unless Jenny and I are doing memes, which we're not, I don't think this is going to work for us.
I guess we have to join the TikTok because apparently TikTok knocked off Google as the #1 website. I know.
Oh, does that mean I have to dance? No? Okay, good.
Now, according to my nephews, no, it's not just for dancing anymore. So
that's
even
good.
though all my students are still like,
exactly.
Yeah, I'm not very, literally in the hall, I'll walk outside in the middle of class when everybody's supposed to be in class, and there's like a half a dozen people doing TikTok dances in the hall instead of going to class.
Well, goal. It's a goal, Jenny.
It's a goal. Yeah. Okay. Lisa said she would follow us on TikTok, so I guess now I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to email. That's funny, which is funny. Email my nephew and have him teach me how to TikTok.
That's Jenny. That's a goal. That's a good goal to have. Like, I'm going to learn something new. I learned to paddleboard, and you're going to learn to TikTok.
I'm going to learn how to TikTok.
How to do it.
So there you go. All right. Well, anyway, we'll see you guys on Sunday. We'll let you know Saturday what time we're coming at you on Sunday with our Viva la resolutions.
Resolution goal. Viva la goals.
Viva la goals. All right. For 2022. All right, guys. Happy New Year to you. Take care of yourself. Stay home on New Year's Eve. Or if you go out, have an Uber at the ready, wear a mask because, we're still in it. Still in it.
Still doing it, people.
Still doing it. All right, guys. Peace out.
Bye.
Bye, Monica. Bye, Lisa. Thanks for hanging with us today. Bye, Joe. Right on. Mwah.